Thanks for joining us, guys. I'm just waiting for a few more people to join, and then we may begin. I think we've got 1 more minute until 3 o'clock, so I might give it about 2-3 minutes before we actually begin the presentation, just so that everybody is on board. Please feel free just to send me a little note to make sure that you can hear me. That would be greatly appreciated. All right, I'm going to go ahead and get started, as I know we all have evening plans, as well as activities we need to get going on. So just a little point, if everybody can just let me know if they do indeed hear me, that would be great. I would greatly appreciate it. Just type into the chat box that you can hear me, and yeah, then we can begin. Also, just make sure that you let me know that you can indeed hear the audio as well as see the screen with the PowerPoint. I'm going to assume, because I haven't seen anybody type out, that everybody can hear. My computer is saying that my microphone is working. So I am going to get started. Oh, is it breaking up a little? Okay, let me see if I can, bear with me. I'm going to check my internet connection. It might actually be on the wrong one. Hold on for a second. Seeing a couple more people have joined us, so that's great news. It's buying us some time. Is the sound now better? Great. All right, let's get back to sharing the screen. Can everybody also see the PowerPoint presentation up? Great. All right. So, welcome to the second webinar in a series of webinars aimed at the Education USA scholars, as well as Opportunity Fund students. The second webinar will be heavily concentrated on with regards to standardized testing that we have here for US study and for the colleges. So yeah, just bear with us because I'm going to go through not only just undergraduate, but I'm also going to go through graduate standardized testing. Okay. So as many of you will know, so Education USA is a program that is funded by the US Department of State and is considered the official source of information on higher education in the US. And what we are kind of mandated and instructed to do is to help students understand the process of applying to US universities and to navigate making sure all the components of the application are put together. Now, one of the very important and key parts of a US college application may be your test scores. It's not the only thing that universities tend to look at, but it does play a major role. You know, if it may not be for just admission, it may be for funding purposes. You will see two types of tests. So there's the English language test, which all students as a condition of their visas need to be able to prove that they are English proficient, as well as admissions tests, or what is also called your academic ability testing. So as you can see, there are a number of tests that kind of fall under each of the categories. When it comes to English language tests, students will see the likes of TOEFL, IELTS, Duolingo, and the PTE. Now, as you will see, the US loves acronyms. So when it comes to putting it all together, I will try my best to read out each of them, but I will refer to them as into their short abbreviated names, if you want to call it. So TOEFL, which is referred to as the test of English as a foreign language. You've got the IELTS, which is the International English Language Test System. Duolingo, just as it says, is an up-and-coming English test that's gaining more and more popularity. They offer quite a number of options in terms of lower costs, and are also helping in terms of waivers. So it's becoming more and more popular and accepted by US institutions, especially since it's recently undergone a change, making it a bit more valid. But US universities are still coming to the party, and not all of them are exactly accepting it as yet. PTE stands for Pearson Test of English. It's used by a number of universities, but definitely not as widely used as TOEFL or IELTS is. Okay. Admissions tests. So for an undergraduate test, so these are students who would be pursuing bachelor's degrees in most cases. Associate's degrees don't always ask for academic ability tests for admissions, but you would be either taking the SAT or the ACT. And US universities don't discriminate against either of these tests. They accept both for admissions purposes. And I think it's important to realize that you are able to, take pre-practice tests of each and see which one you prefer. Some students do better on the SAT, others do better on the ACT, but we'll talk a little bit more what goes into and what each test entails. The SAT stands for the Standardized Aptitude Test, and the ACT stands for academic college test. Okay. Graduate school, there's, depending on what you want to specialize in, you'll see quite a number of options available to you. But generally for master's and PhD level students, most fields of study will request you to do what's known as a graduate record exam, or the GRE. That is the most widely called for test when it comes to master's and PhD level students. Some MBA focused programs would may look at the GRE, but in most cases they would ask for a GMAT. If you are looking to go pursue a Juris Doctorate in the US, you may do an LSAT, which is in order to get into a law program in the US. If you're looking at an LLM, which is a master's in law, generally you don't need to take any sort of standardized testing. So it's only for like the Juris Doctorate, which is basically the first law degree in the US. MCAT, for anyone who wishes to pursue medical school in the US. USMLE is also a medical-based test that's for foreign doctors that would be looking to pursue their residency in the United States, and then the DAT, which is dental. So just so that you ever come across them to understand that that's what they are. But in most cases, what you as individual students looking to pursue master's and PhD level work would be the GRE exam. So a little bit more about the undergraduate offerings. SAT and ACT are the most widely used college admissions tests in the US. Many schools or colleges use it for placement and academic counseling, as well as scholarships and merit-based aid. It helps students show colleges what they know and what they can do. It is judged as fair. The questions are rigorously researched and tested to make sure all students from all backgrounds who have equal levels of preparations have equal chance to do well. There are many more universities that are looking at tests being optional. So I've put a link there, fairtest.org. You can go and check out their list. These are universities that don't require the SAT or the ACT for admissions, but always read the fine print. Although they may not require it for admissions, they may require it for a scholarship or financial aid purposes. Okay. So moving on with understanding the SAT, there are two types of tests. The SAT reasoning test with an optional essay, and then for some universities they may require the SAT subject test. These may be for more competitive institutions or for certain areas of study. So let's say you're looking to pursue engineering or go to some business schools, for instance, Wharton School of Business at the University of Pennsylvania. These types of programs may absolutely require SAT subject tests. So do your research again when you're putting those lists together of the universities you're going to apply to. Look at what their requirements are for applications. I'm going to move on to the SAT subject test before we move into the nitty-gritty of the SAT and the ACT. So as I said, subject tests are generally not required for most universities in the US unless you're applying to a heavily competitive institution or are looking at specialized fields of study. Subject tests tend to be 60 minutes each, and they are multiple choice questions. You are able to sit for 3 tests at one exam sitting. This is because you can basically spend the 3 tests 60 minutes each in the same time period that it would take a student sitting for the general test. And you'll see the timing there. So that is why you can take up to 3 in one sitting. You don't have to take all 3 at the same time. You can take 1 or 2 and be done. But as you'll see now, these add up. The basic fee to even sit for the exam is $26, and each subject that you add onto that basic fee is $22 each. And because the international fee for Africa is $43, so you're looking at a fee of about $113. It's offered a bit more frequently than the SAT, so that's also something to be aware of when you're doing your planning. And there's a number of sample tests available on their official website. So www or .sat.college4.org, or you can just type in sat.college4.org and the website should come up, no problem. Test dates are October, November, December, May, and June, just to be aware of that. I skipped ahead there, but October, November, December, May, and June. And we'll talk a little bit about what the dates are for just the general SATs. Internationally, November and June they only offer subject tests in November and June. There would be no regular sitting for general SAT. The subjects that they have on offer for you to write, they have Maths Level 1. This assesses mathematics knowledge, basically 3 years of high school mathematics coursework. So about 2 years of algebra, 1 year of geometry. Mathematics Level 2 goes a little bit higher and has elementary functions, pre-calculus, calculus, and trigonometry. So it's a little bit more advanced than the other mathematics. The sciences, so you would have biology. You can either take the ecological or the molecular test, and basically this assesses understanding of general biology, covers knowledge of fundamental concepts, application and interpretation skills. Biology E focuses on biological communities, populations and energy flow. Biology M focuses on biochemistry, cellular structure, and processes such as respiration and photosynthesis. Generally 1 year biology course, so your life sciences would cover this. 1 year in algebra and familiarity with simple algebraic concepts such as ratios, not fractions, and direct inverse proportions. Laboratory experience can be helpful, but not necessary. Chemistry covers major concepts of chemistry and ability to apply these concepts in problem-solving scenarios. Requires the ability to organize and interpret results obtained by observation and experimentation. So again, also 1 year chemistry course, and familiarity with algebraic relationships and applying these to solving word problems. Familiarity with simple algebraic concepts such as ratios and direct and inverse proportions, exponents, and scientific notation. Again, laboratory experience is helpful but not necessary. They do have a physics test, and this assesses an understanding of major concepts and ability to apply these principles to solve specific problems. 1 year physics course helps in physical sciences, but I would say that there is some material within the physics exam that is not covered in the matric syllabus. So if you are looking to potentially, some of my engineers out there, if you're potentially looking to take the physics subject test, I would recommend going to your physics teacher or getting a tutor to go over some of the subject matter. And you can find more on the sat.college4.org website. There is a literature test, and this basically assesses how well the student has learned to read and interpret literature, and it covers poetry, prose, and drama in English, and American literature from the Renaissance to the present. And so basically this is 3 to 4 years of high school literature study. It's not the most popular one that students take, I will be honest. There are two offerings in the history side, US history and world history. World history is only offered basically once a year for international students, and that would be at the December sitting. So just to be aware of that. US history generally assesses knowledge of and ability to use material commonly taught in a US history class and social studies courses in high school. It covers political, economic, social, intellectual, and cultural history, as well as foreign policy from pre-Columbian history to the present. So 1 year US history course. And world history assesses understanding of key developments in global history, the application and weighing of evidence and ability to interpret and generalize, and covers the development of major world cultures in all historical fields, political and diplomatic, intellectual and cultural, and social and economic. There are also English language tests, and quite a few of them, at least probably over 10. You have reading only and ones that have listening, and you need to check when those are offered. But languages, French, German, modern Hebrew, and Spanish are the reading only ones. And then the languages with listening are Chinese, French, German, Japanese, Korean, and Spanish. And they basically assess the ability to read by testing vocabulary use, language structure, and comprehension of variety of text, and assesses your listening comprehension as well, if you add listening into it. Okay. The SAT, the reasoning test. So you'll see here, they changed the test a number of years ago. So I don't want you to necessarily worry about what says current SAT on if you're looking at the screen on the left-hand side. We're going to concentrate on the redesigned SAT. So you still have all these major components as part of it, but it's not, but the essay is an optional factor now. So the reading section, okay, will basically give you 65 minutes to complete the reading section, and you have 52 questions to answer in that time period. With writing and language, this tends to focus on, more like your English language. Can you, proofread and understand English language conventions and so on. You have 35 minutes to do that section and to answer 44 questions in that time period. These are all multiple choice questions in the reading and the writing and language section. The essay, which is optional, many universities, barring I think there's might be just over 20 left that require the essay, many don't anymore, but you would have 50 minutes to answer one question. And basically you are reading an argument of another author, and you have to analyze that argument and indicate what they use to support their argument. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. Mathematics is 80 minutes, which is broken up into two sections, a section with a calculator and a section with a non-calculator. And basically you would have the 58 questions or tasks within that. Generally there are multiple choice, but there are some gridding questions within that. So it's a total of 180 minutes of test time with breaks in between to answer 154 questions. Okay. So total testing time is 3 hours plus the 50 minutes if you take the essay, right? You will have a couple of breaks in between that. You'll probably have about 30 minutes of preparation and talk from the proctor before that. So if you go in for an 8 a.m. test, you probably won't be getting out until about 1 p.m. So just be prepared for that. And then I'll talk about some tips to get you through that long period of time for taking the test. I know many of you have already experienced this, so you're probably nodding your heads. So yes, you have two sections, as I said before. So you've got evidence-based reading and writing, and the mathematics essentially. So, and we'll talk about how the scores work with that, and the optional essay. There's no penalty for guessing, which is great, because the previous test used to basically penalize you a quarter of a point for getting an answer wrong. So this kind of, people were scared to answer. But at least now you can take a chance and maybe you'll get something or maybe you'll get nothing. Score scale is basically 400 to 1600. The essay is scored separately. So essentially you can get between 200, your lower score, and 800 being your top score for each of the two sections we're talking about. So reading and writing, and then the mathematics. You basically get the 200 points for writing your name on the test correctly. So don't mess that up. All right, the SAT So it's got right-only scoring. Students can earn points for each correct answer. There's no penalty for guessing, and students are encouraged to read each question and select the answer they think is best. Okay. No obscure vocabulary. The new SAT focuses on words that students are most likely to use again throughout college and their careers. Students won't see words such as prevaricate or I can't even say these, sagacious, and they will need to understand how words, but you still need to understand how words like synthesis or alleviate are used in the context of what you're reading. So it's a lot of reading comprehension, being able to understand words in context. It's more focused math. Okay, so focuses on math skills most widely used in your college and your career. Most questions are multiple choice, and calculators are allowed only on one section. Some questions are easier actually to solve without a calculator just by doing head mathematics. So that is why students that potentially have taken math lit won't necessarily do too badly. Okay. Analysis, not an opinion. So the SAT essay will ask students to read a passage, provide a written analysis of the text, use critical reasoning skills to show how the author builds an argument, and use evidence from the text to support their analysis. Students should check individual college websites to see if the schools that they are interested in actually require the SAT. It's free world-class test practice for all. So College Board's website has free official SAT practice on Khan Academy, and you can do drills in areas that you feel that you may be weak in. And it's got personalized practice pathways provided for each student. There are full-length practice tests available and thousands of sample questions. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, there's up to 8 previous exams that are available on the website, and there's a full PDF. Part of what I will share with you is a Google Drive where you will see many of these practice tests available. These are accessible through any computer with internet access, and materials are also available in print if necessary. So you could go to your nearest advising center and ask them for a free SAT booklet. Okay. So just to understand each of the sections a little bit more in depth, because I think it's important, a lot of this test comes down to strategy, but understanding the content can help you prepare for it better. So evidence-based reading and writing. Basically, this section comprises of a reading test and a writing and language test. The text complexity is basically 9th grade through first year post-high school. So the emphasis on source analysis and use of evidence. So inclusion of data and informational graphics, you'll see. And there's a focus on words in context, okay, and on word choice for rhetorical effect, okay. Students work with text in literature, science, and in social studies. Okay. So it's a bit of an overview of the reading test. The overall aim of the reading test is to determine whether students can demonstrate college and career readiness proficiency in comprehending a broad range of high quality, appropriately challenging literary and informational text. In the content areas of the US and world literature, history, social studies, and science. The test will comprise a series of passages and associated multiple choice questions. Some question sets will refer to a paired passage, and others will be only one passage. Students must refer to the specific language in the passages and use careful reasoning to draw supportable inferences. Okay. So here's an example, and you can read through this. But basically, read the first 10 lines. Okay, this passage is adapted from a speech delivered by Congresswoman Barbara Jordan of Texas on July 25th, 1974. As a member of the Judiciary Committee of the United States of House of Representatives. In the passage, Jordan discusses how and when a United States president may be impeached or charged with serious offenses while in office. Jordan's speech was delivered in context of impeachment hearings against then President Richard Nixon. On the reading test, the lines will be numbered as they are here with the references of the questions. Okay. I'm not sure why we have marks on the screen. Let's see. Okay. The main rhetorical effect of the series of these three phases, the three phases in lines 5 through 6, the diminution, the subversion, and the destruction, is to, okay, A, convey with increasing intensity the seriousness of the threat Jordan sees to the Constitution. B, clarify that Jordan believes the Constitution was first weakened, then sabotaged, then broken. Indicate that C, indicate that Jordan thinks the Constitution is prone to failure in 3 distinct ways. D, propose a 3-part agenda for rescuing the Constitution from the crisis. So the content is rhetoric and analyzing the word choice. So basically, you must determine the main rhetorical effect of the speaker's choice. So I'm going to go back to lines 5 and 6. Okay. I always say read a line. I'm not doing very well here, but basically, if you look at lines 5 and 6, but read one line above and one after, because sometimes I think it helps put it in context, then you can, you'll be able to maybe understand it better. And if you can, in the meantime, just go ahead and share with me what you think it would be. The answer. Go ahead and type it in if you think you have the answer. Okay, again, lines 5 and 6. Okay, so thanks, Lisa. So the correct answer is A, and this is the best choice. So I always say the SAT, they're going to have the most clear, concise, and correct answer. Okay, they're going to have another sort of okay answer, and maybe another one that you're like, yeah, and then one that's maybe completely wrong. So A is actually the best one, okay, because the quoted phrase is building from diminution to subversion to destruction suggests an increasing seriousness of the threat Jordan sees to the Constitution. Okay. Choice B is not the best answer because the passage offers no evidence that the quoted phrases refer to 3 different events. that happen in a strict sequence. It is more reasonable to infer from the passage that Jordan sees diminution, subversion, and destruction as differing degrees to which the Constitution could be undermined. Moreover, the passage suggests that Jordan sees these three things as products of the same action or series of actions, not as three distinct ways. Okay. C is not the best answer because the passage offers no evidence that the quoted, basically exactly what I said before, phrases refer to the three distinct ways in which the Constitution is prone to failure. Okay. Choice D is not the best answer because the passage offers no evidence that the quoted phrases refer to the three unique elements of a proposal to resolve a crisis. Okay. So yeah. So it's not three distinct parts. Did everybody understand that? So the main rhetorical effect of the series of three phrases in a line. Great. So the language and writing test assesses college and career readiness, proficiency in revising and editing a range of texts. It does not require students to provide written responses. Multiple choice questions only. Attends to a core set of standard English language conventions and to effective written expression. Some passages and or questions will be accompanied by representations of data, so tables, charts, graphs, etc. All passages will be written specifically for the test. The most common question format will require students to choose the best of three alternatives to an indicated part of the passage, often an underlined portion, or to determine that the version presented in the passage is the best option. So here's an example. A 1954 documentary about a renowned watercolor painter, Don Kingman, shows the artist sitting on a stool on Mott Street in New York City's Chinatown. A crowd of admiring spectators watches as Kingman squeezes dollops of paint from several tubes into a tin watercolor. So you see a number there? Watercolor box from a few primary colors. Kingman creates dozens of beautiful hues as he layers the translucent paint onto paper on his easel. Each stroke of the brush and dab of the sponge transforms thinly sketched outlines into buildings, shop signs, and street lamps. The street scene Kingman begins composing in this short film is very much in keeping with the urban landscapes for which he's best known. So, by looking at that sentence where the number 2 starts, do you think A, there's no change, or should B, box, full stop, from just a few primary colors, comma, C, box from just a few primary colors, comma, D, box, comma, from just a few primary colors. Content, standard English conventions, conventions of punctuation. Students must create 2 grammatically complete and standard sentences. Okay, so I see you were all saying B. Yes, box, full stop, from just a few primary colors, comma. Choice B is the best answer because it provides punctuation that creates 2 grammatically complete and standard sentences. Okay. This is considered a medium difficult question, if you want to call it. A is not the best because it results in a comma splice, as well as some confusion about the prepositional phase from just a few primary colors. C is not the best because it results in a run-on sentence. Okay, and D is not the best answer because it results also in a common splice. Okay, you can also find more questions on the College Board website. A little bit about the essay overview. Students who opt to take the SAT are required to take make purposeful substantive use of textual evidence in a way that can be objectively evaluated. The essay task is not designed to elicit students' subjective opinions. The prompt will remain consistent for all administrations of the SAT. Only the writing passages will change. Students will receive 3 scores of 2 to 8 in reading, writing, and analysis. Okay. Essentially, you're going to have 2 scores using a 1 to 4 score range in each area for reading, writing, and analysis. And the 2 raters scores will be added together to give you the score of 2 to 8. Okay. So this prompt is what will be used for all administrations of the test. Okay. As you read the passage below, consider how the author uses evidence, such as facts or examples, to support claims, reasoning to develop ideas and connect claims and evidence, and stylistic or persuasive elements such as word choice or appeals to emotion to add powers to the ideas expressed. Okay. And then you'll have your source text. So the source text can change. So basically what it's asking you is to write an essay in which you explain how the author builds an argument to persuade his or her audience that the author's claim. In your essay, analyze how the author uses one or more features listed above, or features of your own choice, to strengthen the logic and persuasiveness of his or her argument. Be sure that your analysis focuses on the most relevant aspects of the passage, and your essay should not explain whether you agree with author's claim, but rather explain how he or she builds an argument to persuade his or her audience. Okay. There is a rubric available that you can find online. Okay. I want you to think for a second, but when they say look at like emotions, so are they using expert opinion? Are they using statistics? Are they using anecdotal evidence to support their claims? You know, you've got to look at what they are using to support their argument and kind of illustrate that and reference the lines within the source text that you're finding. That is how best to do it. And I have quite a lot of documents within the Google Drive that you can use to build your essays. Math test overview. This basically focuses on content at most for college and career readiness, assesses fluency with understanding of an ability to apply mathematical concepts. So you'll be looking at algebra and linear equations, problem solving and data analysis, and then some advanced mathematical practices such as geometry or I think there's maybe up to 3 like tree type questions out of all that is offered. So certain key elements will be woven through the math test. So there's an emphasis on mathematical application and reasoning, problems from a range of disciplines addressing real-world problems drawn from science, social studies, and careers, inclusion of both calculator and non-calculator portions, as well as attention to use of a calculator as a tool. As I said, remember, it's not always the best to answer some questions. You can, if you know your times tables up to 15 or 20, and you can do that quickly in your head, it's quicker doing it in your head than doing it on a calculator, for instance. It includes both multiple choice questions and student-produced gridding questions. So here's an example from the no calculator portion. We look at the question that's offered. What is the possible solution for the equation 24 over x plus 1 minus 12 over x minus 1, okay, is equal to 1. So understand the actual question. What are they actually asking you? Look at the structure of the expression and find a way to rewrite it. Again, showing the link between fluency and mathematical practices. Okay. The student must transform the expression without a calculator, for example, while multiplying both sides of the equation by a common denominator as a first step in the solution. Okay. I always say, and this is probably especially true for the English section, cover up the answers and see if you can answer it without looking at what the answers are, and then look for the one that matches your answer best. Okay. This would be a grid-in question, by the way. So approximately 20% of the math test contains these. Okay. So I'm going to leave this here for a second, look at it, and let you have a think about that for 2 seconds. I just want to run out and check my router's beeping, so I just want to make sure it's fine. But look at this working out and give me a nod if you think you understand it well. Okay. Does everybody understand? Great. Perfect. Okay, so moving on, scores and reporting. So I'm not going to worry about this too much, but I think it's important just to kind of go and understand. So we spoke about your total score being basically on a scale between 400 and 1600. And then you have 2 sections. So you have evidence-based reading and writing and math. Okay. You get an analysis in science. So there's cross-test scores, and the universities could look at this. And then some of the passages, because they are done, it's a science passage or history and social studies focused passage. So that's why you can get an analysis cross-test score in either science or history. Then you have 3 test scores on scales of between 10 and 40, so reading, writing and language, and math. And then sub-scores based on words and context and command of evidence, and expression of ideas and standard English conventions for reading and writing. And then with regards to mathematics, it would be heart of algebra, problem-solving analysis, and passport to advanced math. There may be some additional math questions too, just thrown in. So how do these tests impact instruction in science, social studies, and career-related courses? So basically, as I said before, the cross tests basically this will include a score of analysis in science and history, and it's derived from the following. So text used for analysis in reading and writing and language may have foundations in these content areas. At least one text used on the reading test for analysis will be on one of the US founding documents. So what I would highly recommend that you're doing when I say this is, so this would be the US Constitution, the Bill of Rights, the federal papers. I'm forgetting one that's bothering me. Bad of me. But I do have a list of them in the Google Drive that you can refer to. So, and then also like passages from Great Global Conversation. So this might be like an excerpt from The Long Walk to Freedom by Nelson Mandela, a speech by Gandhi, something of that nature. So tables, graphs, and data may relate to topics in content areas too. So math problems may have science or social science contexts as well. So basically, are you able to read a graph that's talking about age and population decline or something of that nature, let's say. Some practice and resources. So as I said, the College Board website has a lot of great free resources. I also like using the Goosh and IB Global. You'll see a lot of the resources that I have in the Google Drive are referred to, are based on IB Global. So that's one to look at. But Khan Academy offers some amazing drills that you can look forward to. Some features that are included: thousands of practice problems, personalized tutorials on test content, official tests, comprehensive reporting for students, and you can access it anytime. Okay. Some tips for the SAT from myself: all questions count the same, they're all 1 point, no matter what the difficulty is. So I always say work on your personal order of difficulty. My students, when I used to run the boot camps for SAT, used to laugh at me because I used to call it the POOD strategy. So POOD, your personal order of difficulty. Work on the easy questions first that you can get quickly, then work on the most time consuming, and then work on the ones that are hardest for you. Okay. Don't be misled by answers that look correct but are not supported by the text. Keep track of your time. Eliminate choices if you can at all possible, if you know they're absolutely incorrect. Read carefully. Make sure you actually understand what the question is asking you, and use your text booklet as scratch paper. Number 2 pencil is the same as an HB pencil. So if you see like, oh, bring in a number 2 pencil, that's what they mean. It's an HB pencil in our terms. Don't use mechanical or clutch pencils because you can tear your multiple choice paper. Bring a snack and a drink to be kept under your desk for break times. You have a few 5-minute and 10-minute breaks in between, just to be aware. Use evidence to support your arguments. Build your reading stamina. What I would say is don't be afraid to passage map. So kind of get your understanding and comprehension of each paragraph that you're reading and make like a small summary note on the side, so that you can easily refer to it when you're answering the questions. Always analyze the informational graphics. Get excited about US founding documents. Practice your editing for English language conventions. Put away the calculator some of the time. So remember what I said, if you can know your square roots and your times tables pretty well and practice that, it can help you answer very easy questions without having to punch in numbers unnecessarily on a calculator. Check your answers if you have time, but also don't second guess yourself. Answer every question on the test. No points will be deducted. We recommend a scientific calculator or a graphing calculator, but those normal calculators you have at school are more than okay. Sophisticated calculators are really not necessary, and do not use a calculator that has cell phone capability, a digital audio video player, a camera, has wireless capability, uses paper, or requires an electrical outlet. Yeah, I don't know what those calculators are. So in closing, take a mock full-length test and score it yourself. So you can get a Getting Ready SAT workbook on the Google Drive or from Khan Academy. All registrations and payment tests are done online. Paper registration is available for Sunday test takers if you can't take it because of religious reasons. The current cost for the test, and this will go up next year, July, is $107.50. It's $64.50 for the actual test fee. This is for the essay included, and $43 for the international processing. There are 4 tests available: October, December, March, and May. Okay. There are 5 test centers in Gauteng, 3 in Cape Town, 2 in Durban, and other test centers in Mafeking and Bloemfontein. Durban, just because I think the majority on the call today are from Durban, it would be St. Henry's or Hilton. Cape Town would be Herschel, Somerset College, and the American International School in Cape Town. Gauteng is African Leadership Academy. BITS, African Leadership Academy, BITS, American International School, Johannesburg, St. Benedict's in Bedford View, as well as the African Union International School in the East Rand. Okay, something to be aware of. So there should be some books online at Education USA Library, so I highly recommend that you reach out to Susan in Durban to get a book. You can reach out to Alice in Cape Town. I can put you in touch with Justina or Bongi in Joburg, Victoria, to see if they have any books that can be borrowed. Group sessions, one-on-one sessions with your advisor to speak about previous test scores. And don't be afraid, I know some of you are in the same area, so form a study group with your friends who may live close to you. The ACT, which is an equivalent, it tends to be very much based on the same thing. They're testing your English, mathematics, and your reading and science. Why they're testing science is not actually your science, it's your reading comprehension of science texts. Okay. So that's just something, they're very similar function to the SAT, and they both are used by colleges and universities as a factor in admission. Okay. It is a bit of a shorter test. It's 2 hours and 55 minutes, plus 30 minutes if you're taking ACT writing. The difference between the ACT and the SAT at this point is that the SAT is still a paper-based test, and the ACT is now an online computer test. There's 4 sections and 5 with writing, so evidence-based reading, writing, math, science, what else? And then obviously, reading and like just your English. There's no penalty for guessing, so it's also multiple choice, and the scale is a 1 to 36, and with essay being taught separately. Here's a little bit about the format. So you have 215 questions, and you're given a total of 175 minutes to complete it. So 45 minutes for 75 English questions, 60 minutes for 60 math questions, 35 minutes for 40 reading questions, and 35 minutes for 40 science-based questions. Okay, so you can see a summary there, right, of what each of them would entail. Okay. So you can see not too dissimilar from the SAT, but some people just like how the ACT kind of words things a bit differently. So, you know, you need to take practice. If you haven't taken any of the tests, I recommend taking the free practice test on each of the websites to see which one you prefer. It is offered 5 times a year in South Africa on a Friday or Saturday, morning or afternoon session. So you can see there's a lot of options there, but it's offered September, October, December, April, and June. So there's more offerings than the SAT. Registration and payment is done online, and the test centers are in Gauteng and KZN, and more to open on the cost, 150. Okay, so just something to be aware of. Okay. It is quite a bit more expensive than the SAT, and I think it's just because of all the electronic setup that they have to do. So yeah, $150 to take the test. With writing, it could be up to $166. Okay. So you can go to the ACT website, act.org. They've teamed up with Kaplan to offer free prep online. Again, start a study group, and please join the free ACT club online dedicated to Africa. Okay, the links are there. Okay, I am going to go through this. I know the participants that are on the call, I think, are primarily undergraduate, but I think it is important for me to share this with the other students that couldn't be here today. So I am going to speak about the GRE, but I think it's good for you to understand what they are, so that in future that you know, maybe you'll be aware that, okay, if I want to go pursue my master's and PhD, I am aware of it. Okay. So the GRE is a general test, is used around the world for master's programs, MBA programs, specialized masters in business programs, doctoral programs, and awarding fellowships. The scores are good for 5 years. Total testing time is 3 hours and 45 minutes. The 2 sections that are available is, so they have 3 with there's also 3 with the writing. So they have verbal, quantitative, and analytical writing. It's a computer-based test, choice test, and the scores range from 130 to 170 per section. Analytical writing is scored separately on a 1 to 6 scale. You will get your verbal and quantitative scores immediately after you've done the computer test. The analytical writing will come within a few days after that, and you can retest every 21 days. Here's a little bit more information about what is offered in terms of what's on the GRE test. So analytical writing, verbal reasoning, quantitative reasoning. And there's always going to be an unscored section, or one that's done for research, in terms of why I say there's 5 sections, okay? As you can see, they are predominantly a multiple choice, okay? But there is some text completion on the verbal side, or sentence equivalence, and numeric entry on the mathematics, okay? A GRE registration is offered multiple times a month. GRE registration is done online at ets.org/GRE. There are test centers in Johannesburg, Durban, and Cape Town, and the cost for South Africa is $205. Okay. There are additional resources available, so you can go online to the website for free resources to study and practice mock tests. So ets.org/GRE/prepare. You could start a study group, as I said before, and again, the Education USA libraries do have books available to borrow. I will also put in on Google Drive all the documents that I have available for GRE testing and preparation. So that's just something to be aware of. Other common standardized tests, the GMAT. So the Graduate Management Admissions Test is required for entrance to most MBA programs. It is also computer-based, very similar to the GRE with the writing, quantitative, and verbal section, and the score is like the SATs, a total up to 800. It costs $250 plus $30 for each additional score report. So you can see why I recommend that if you can take the GRE over the GMAT for MBA programs, it is quite a bit cheaper. TOEFL, as I said before, the test of English as a foreign language, is by far the most popular English language test for applying to universities. Now, because South Africa is technically an officially English-speaking country, often if you've gone to an English medium school or to a, or you've scored really well on your SAT in the English section, you often won't need to take an English language test. So it's completely internet-based. So there's 4 sections: reading comprehension, listening comprehension, speaking, and writing. Each section out of 30, so you have a total of 120. And the minimum for US study is about 80 points. Offered in many cities throughout South Africa on multiple days in a month. It cost us about $215. So that's just something to be aware of. And registration, again, is also done. It's offered the same company as GRE, ets.org/TOEFL. General rules, I would say with regards to these, take multiple practice tests in a timed environment. At minimum, study for 6 weeks. Have a good night's rest before, rest the night before, and don't study the day before. Arrive early, earlier than it says in your ticket. So if it's 8 o'clock start, or they say be there by 7:45, be there 7:30, 7:15, just to also kind of calm your nerves and prepare for any issues. Okay, don't forget a cover up, because it can be cold in some environments, especially the computer rooms if you're taking online tests. And don't forget your snack, because there's nothing, you don't want to have a growling tummy in the middle of testing. Okay, I'm going to open it up to questions if you guys have any. So please feel free to type into the chat any questions that you may have. Again, this will be recorded and provided to you by the YouTube channel. as well as I'll send you the link for the additional folder on the Google Drive with practice and advice and tips. For those students that I'm working with on a private basis, I am happy to speak about some more tips and advice to study for the exams. So yeah, don't be afraid to reach out to me to set up a time to have a meeting about that. Any questions from the floor? Great, I'm glad to hear that, Lisa. Thanks, Portia. Thanks, Jamie. I think we had a strong showing from KZN today, I'm just going to say. So that's awesome. Since there doesn't seem to be any questions, don't feel you feel free to reach out to me individually or to your advisor with anything more that you have, and please be on the lookout for an email with a link to the recording as well as a link to the Google Drive. Okay, have a good evening, everybody, and hope to see you and speak to you next week. I believe next week's session is on essay writing, a very, very critical part of the application. So I hope you can join us there. Have a good one. Bye.